Hello everyone, welcome to the live analysis of the Christ University entrance test, which got over just a couple of hours ago. So this is the first time that Christ had conducted that test uh, in a particular centered mode. Okay, until last year it used to happen online home mode. This is the first time that it is happening in a center mode. Okay, so a few things regarding the test. First, the things that changed. I talked with a lot of students, and I found out that the user interface was very friendly. But the problem was the test started 30 minutes late. Some students said that the test started 45 minutes late. Okay, so there was a delay in starting of the test. But the interface was very user friendly. That's what the students said. They were well equipped with the test that they had taken. Another important change here which happened was questions were not jumbled up until last year. This time there was sections. So all the cont questions were together, all the verbal questions were together, all the GK questions were together, and so on. So it was a sectional test, and there was a sectional time limit also for every section. So students could not go from one section to another section. They had to submit that particular section, and then and only then they could move on to the next section. Okay, there was an on-screen calculator available, and many of the students said that it was very helpful for them in the DI section, because the DI was really calculation oriented. So the calculator was helpful for them in the DI section, because of which that section became a relatively easier section for them. Okay, however, the calculator that was available, I could do basic operations like addition, multiplication, subtraction, and so on. Okay, so it was a basic calculator that was available. Few questions had 5 options with them. Majority of the questions were with 4 options, but some students said that they came across 3 questions which had 5 options in them. Some students said that they came across 5 to 6 questions which had 4 options in them. Okay, so there were very few questions which had 5 options in them. Majority of them had 4 questions. Okay, so another important thing which students told me was, though it was a GK section, they found some LR questions in GK like number series and so on. So that was there. Another thing that is more important is this was the pattern of the test. So you had fundamental accounting 10 questions, 10 minutes, English language 10 minutes, 25 questions, GK 20 questions, 10 minutes. As I said, out of that 20 questions, few students said that they also got LR questions in them. Cont 20 questions, 20 minutes, reasoning 25 questions, 20 minutes, and data interpretation 20 questions, 20 minutes. Okay, so this was the sectional time limit that they gave for each section. Okay, and as I just said earlier also, there were few questions in GK which had LR questions in them. So the test, overall test, had 120 questions, which was as usual, and students had 90 minutes to attempt that 120 questions. For every right question, you would get 1 mark. That was also mentioned. And then for every wrong question, you will lose 1/4. This everything was given. So that remained the same. But the change, the major change being that instead of a jumbled up test, which happens every year, it was a sectional test, and you had a sectional time limit also. So I could not move from one section to another section. Okay, this is one thing. So let's look at the small analysis of every section. The first section is the verbal section that I'm going to look at. People said they got reading comprehensions, vocabulary, filling the blanks, sentence corrections, and so on. Okay, they also had questions based on conclusions. So there were a couple of students who told me that the verbal reasoning questions came in the English section actually. Okay, so the type of questions were very easy. That's what the student said. So out of 25 questions, they could easily attempt 20 to 22 questions. So English was easy. RC, students said they had 2 passages, and roughly there were 3 or 4 questions in each passage is what they could recall. Okay, there were too many questions on vocab based. However, majority of the questions were vocab based. So if I look at the GK section, students found the GK a little difficult. Okay, because there were science-based questions. There were questions based on physics. There were questions based on math. In fact, one student, in fact, came and also said that he got a math question in the GK section. And even if after he solved it, he got two answers and both the answers were there in the options also. So, a couple of students also said that two or three questions were wrong in the sense options were not matching and something like this. Okay, so there was one math question in GK also. There were LR questions in GK also. There was science based question in GK. So students found out this GK section to be relatively difficult. Okay, and they felt they could attempt around 14 to 16 questions out of 20 questions is what they could attempt. The next sections is cont. Mostly everyone who took the test said that the cont was very easy section. It was very basic type of questions that they got questions on percentages, profit and loss, simple interest, compound interest, ratios. So there were too many questions on arithmetic. That's what the students said. Okay, there were few questions on probability also. There were a couple of questions on Venn diagram. Okay, there were questions on simple interest, compound interest. So majority, and few questions on number systems also. But majority was basically arithmetic, and the level of questions were very easy. That's what the students said. So, and they also said that they could attempt anywhere in the range of 16 to 18 questions out of 20 questions. The next section is DI section. So the type of questions which came in DI were pie diagrams, tabular data. One student also told me that he got a histogram there. Okay, though majority of the students felt that the type of questions that came in DI were calculation oriented, but they were lucky that they had calculator and hence it became a little easier for them. Okay, so this section was on a little difficult side and hence students were able to attempt around 12 to 14 questions just because the calculator was available to them. If you look at reasoning was very similar. Okay, you got couple of students said that there was just one set of questions wherein one LR passage wherein there were two or three questions. Rest most of the questions were singular questions. So you had questions on family tree, you had questions on Venn diagram, you had questions on puzzles, directions, coding, decoding, everything of that sort, number series, analogies, everything. Okay, there were lesser questions on verbal reasoning this time because many students said that they got verbal reasoning in the English section. Okay, so there were some questions here also like syllogisms were present. Okay, however, the level of difficulty of the reasoning section they felt was relatively easier and they could easily attempt around 18 to 20 questions out of 25 questions. And the last section is fundamentals of fundamentals of accounting. Majority of the students said that they were more of a theory based questions and they could attempt around 5 to 7 questions easily out of this 10 questions. Though there were some questions wherein they had to do some calculations on debentures and so on. So one thing I forgot to tell you, in the DI section, there was a few students who told me they got lots of statistics based questions. Okay, and also few statistics based questions were also wrong there. Okay, so that was one more feedback that I got from the DI section. So overall, if you look at the analysis, the student felt the test was relatively easier and they could easily attempt around 80 to 85 questions in the test. So if you would have attempted around 80 to 85 questions and with an accuracy, because the test wasn't very difficult, if you have an accuracy of 80 to 90 percentage, I'm sure you will score anywhere in the range of 75 plus, and that should be a good score for you to get a call for the next round. So any question, guys? Come on, I'm reading my chat. If you have any questions, please put it on the chat. Sir, why were there sections in the exam? So they changed it. Anonymous kid. They changed it. They changed the pattern. So that's absolutely fine. I think that should be relatively easier for you because rather than finding all maths questions, or doing the test in any random order, you could do all maths questions together. You could do all GK together. You could do all verbal together and so on. So I think that is relatively better rather than any random test. So they did not allow us to switch between sections. Yes, that was not possible because as I said, it's a sectional test and there were timings given for each section. So you could not jump from one section to another. So do you think that the cutoff will be lesser because of this section? Yes, maybe a bit lesser than the other, than the past years. But again, as I said, there were not much, the level of difficulty was not different from the previous years. And hence, I don't expect too much change. It could remain the same also as compared to the last year. I was done with accounts 10 minutes early and then I had to wait. Yes, that's possible. That's possible. So if you are done with a particular section, since that time for that particular section is not over, you will have to wait for that section to get over. That's possible. And last two DI questions were wrong. Yes, as I said earlier, there were students who came and told me that the DI questions were wrong. Options were not there. The answer that they were getting were not there in the options. One of the question was based on standard deviation and variance. That's what the student also told me. GK had a lot of science, correct? I told you the GK was based on science. Most of the questions were on science, correct? Yes, in my test, the variance questions were wrong. Yes, I said that. Good. Sir, I think cutoff would be higher. I'm not very sure, Samat, cutoff would be higher because it's a sectional test. It should more or less remain the same as the previous years. Come on, any doubts? Anyone? If you have any questions, please let me know. Sir, will they be called for an interview only or we will? So everyone is called for the test. Okay. So overall, I think the only hiccup was the test started a little late. Some students said that they had to wait for 30 minutes. Some said they had to wait for 45 minutes. So because of which the test started late. So there was some anxiety among students. It happens, but that's good enough. Nothing that we could do. Okay. Okay, so I don't see anything coming up on the chat window, so I'm going to end the session here. Thank you and all the best for your results.